Welcome back, traders. Today's episode is not about indicators. It's not about secret strategies. It's about something far more dangerous. You. More specifically, the emotional traps you fall into every time you trade. And don't even realize it. If you've ever had a day where you knew better, but still blew your account, if you've ever taken a random trade out of anger, panic, boredom, or revenge, if you've ever felt like your worst decisions happen right after a big win or a massive loss, this episode was made for you. Because here's the truth that no one tells you. Your biggest losses almost never come from bad analysis. They come from emotional hijacks. You know how to read a chart. You know how to use a stop loss. But you don't know how to stop yourself. That's where this journey begins. In this video, we're diving into the 5 most common emotional traps that wreck traders, from beginners to pros. And I'm going to show you how to recognize them, break free from them, and finally trade with clarity again. We'll talk about the euphoria trap, why winning can be more dangerous than losing, the revenge spiral, how a single loss turns into a blown account, the need to be right, and how your ego silently kills your consistency, the FOMO frenzy, and why chasing trades always costs you more, the shame cycle, how guilt leads to punishment disguised as trading. But this isn't theory. This is real psychology, wrapped in real emotion, and told in a way that actually makes sense while you're trading. Whether you're scalping, day trading, or swinging positions, these traps affect every trader. Because they're not about the market, they're about you. And the good news? Once you understand how these emotional cycles work, you can break them. You can build the mental muscle that separates winning traders from those who just burn out and disappear. So if you're tired of trading in circles, if you're sick of being your own worst enemy, and if you're finally ready to create emotional consistency, the kind that leads to long-term profitability, then stop what you're doing and give this your full attention. Because this might be the video that saves your trading career. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you've ever fallen into one of these traps. I promise, you're not alone. Now, let's get real. Let's break the cycle, starting right now. Chapter 1. The Trap You Never Saw Coming. You didn't think it would happen to you. You had the charts, the strategy, the conviction, the plan. And yet, there you were, watching the red bleed down your screen. You weren't just losing money. You were watching yourself unravel, slowly, quietly. Then, all at once, you clicked the button anyway. The trade you promised yourself you wouldn't take. The setup you knew was weak. You entered with shaky hands, your chest tight, your breath shallow. Somewhere deep down, you knew you were being pulled by something else, not logic, not data. Emotion. It crept in unnoticed, like fog in the night. You thought you were rational, controlled, disciplined. But the truth? You were already caught in the trap. The emotional cycle of trading, the quiet killer behind massive losses. And if you don't see it for what it is, if you don't name it, it will destroy you slowly and completely, one decision at a time. Let's name it now. This is the first emotional trap, the illusion of control. When you started trading, you believed that if you just learned enough about candlesticks, about indicators, about volume, you'd master the market. But the market isn't the enemy. It's not even the problem. You are. You try to out-trade your own fear. You try to chart your way around your own shame. You make your setups prettier, your entries tighter, your risk-reward more ideal. But the part of you that needs to win, desperately, keeps pushing you into danger. You don't know how to stop, because somewhere deep inside, you believe that one big win will make everything better. That if you could just catch that one massive move, the cycle would reset. Your account would breathe again. Your identity would be intact. You wouldn't feel like a failure anymore. That's the second emotional trap. Identity fusion. You've fused your self-worth with your trading performance. When you win, you feel strong, proud, capable, like you matter. But when you lose, you don't just feel the loss of money, you feel the loss of yourself. You say things like, "I should have known better. I always mess it up. I'm never going to get this." That voice in your head? It isn't trading critique. It's self-abuse disguised as logic. You're not trading the market anymore. You're trading your past wounds, your insecurities, your guilt. You're trying to rewrite an old story with every trade, and that never works. Let's talk about what happens when you get caught between two emotional traps, the need to prove and the fear of failure. It's a vicious loop. You start the day telling yourself you'll follow your plan. You swear you'll stay out of revenge mode, you'll wait for your level, you'll only trade with clarity, but then you miss the first move. Your heart rate spikes. That gnawing voice inside you whispers, "You're falling behind." You feel left out. You feel stupid. You feel ashamed. And suddenly, your cursor is hovering over the buy button. Not because your system told you to, but because your ego demanded redemption. You enter too late. The move fades. You hold anyway. You add more, trying to get your average down. Now you're trapped, emotionally, financially. And here's the twist. You're not even thinking about the market anymore. You're thinking about you. How this makes you look. How this loss will define you. How much pain you're going to feel when you close the trade and have to face the truth. So you don't close it. You hope it will come back. You pray the market will be merciful. But the market doesn't care. It never did. This is where most traders spiral. Not because they're dumb, not because they lack discipline, but because they don't understand what's really happening. You don't have a strategy problem. You have an emotional regulation problem. No one taught you how to feel something intensely without acting on it. No one taught you how to hold discomfort without trying to escape through action, through a trade, through a scalp, through doubling down. And the deeper you go into the cycle, the more you try to trade your way out of the pain. You're chasing a sense of control. But here's the thing. The market isn't chaos. It's a mirror, and it's reflecting back everything you've refused to deal with. That's why we need to break the cycle. Not just with rules and discipline, but with awareness. Because until you learn to spot these emotional traps for what they are, until you call them out by name, you will keep losing money for reasons that have nothing to do with the chart. Let me be blunt. You can have the perfect strategy, but if you're not emotionally stable, you will blow your account over and over again. And it won't be the market's fault. It will be your inability to stop the cycle of impulsive, emotionally driven behavior that keeps hijacking your trades. You're not weak. You're just unaware of the invisible forces steering your decisions. Until now. In this journey, you're going to learn how to unhook yourself from the traps, from the shame, from the illusion that this is about winning. It's not. It's about mastery, of your attention, your emotions, and your reactions. It's about rewiring your brain so that it no longer confuses pain relief with smart trading. It's about finally realizing that every click you make is either healing your story or deepening your wound. And if you're ready to Chapter 2. The inner voice that sabotages everything. You hear it before every mistake. That quiet whisper in your head. The one that pretends to protect you. That voice. It doesn't yell. It reasons. It negotiates. It says things like, "Just this once. You'll make it back. You can't lose again today. If you don't take this now, you'll miss the whole move." And you believe it. Because it sounds familiar. It sounds like you. But that voice, it's not logic. It's fear in disguise. And until you learn to separate that voice from your true voice, you will continue to sabotage your trading. Again and again, without even knowing why. This voice is born from pain. From moments in your life where control was taken from you. From moments you swore you'd never feel helpless again. From wounds you buried under years of ambition and knowledge and charts. And trading is the perfect battleground for those wounds to resurface. Because trading exposes everything. It strips you bare, every unresolved fear, every perfectionist tendency, every need for validation, every ounce of shame that you've carried since you were a child. It all comes rushing up when your money's on the line. And that inner voice, the one that sabotages you, it's trying to protect you from feeling those things. But it's doing it wrong. It tells you to enter early so you don't feel left out. It tells you to double down so you don't feel like a loser. It tells you to hold longer than you should so you don't have to admit defeat. It's not trying to hurt you, but it is keeping you stuck. You need to hear this clearly. You are not your thoughts. That voice in your head? It's just noise, leftover emotional programming from a younger version of you who was trying to stay safe. You don't have to obey it anymore. You don't have to believe that a single trade defines your value. You don't have to keep repeating this cycle just because it's all you've ever known. But to escape it, you need to confront it. You need to watch your thoughts without acting on them. You need to pause in the discomfort, to feel the pull without answering it. That's what real power looks like. But you've never been taught to pause. You've been taught to react, to fix, to act immediately. The market moves fast, right? You have to jump in. That's what you tell yourself. But here's the truth. Your best decisions come from stillness, not speed. You don't need to trade more. You need to think less. You need to develop the muscle of calm, of presence, of self-awareness because when you trade your emotions, you don't trade the market. You trade your trauma. You trade your hope. You trade your anxiety, your pride, your guilt, your grief. And none of those things belong on a chart. Let me give you a visual. Imagine your trading desk as a courtroom. Your strategy is your lawyer. Your risk plan is the evidence. Your emotions, they're the loud, angry protesters outside, banging on the door, demanding a verdict right now. And your job is to close the courtroom door, to let the facts speak, to let your system do the talking. Because if you let those protesters in, you'll get chaos, you'll get panic, You'll get decisions made from fear and regret, and they will cost you everything. There is no breakthrough without emotional discipline, and there is no emotional discipline without awareness. So, starting today, I want you to develop a habit. Every time you feel the urge to jump into a trade, pause. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why do I feel rushed? What part of me needs to win right now? Is this trade based on logic or fear of missing out? Is this an entry or a way to avoid discomfort? And be brutally honest with yourself. No more pretending. No more, I thought it was a valid setup. You knew, deep down, you knew the truth. And from now on, you will stop lying to yourself. Because honesty, real, uncomfortable honesty, is the only path to emotional freedom. You've seen what happens when you don't listen to yourself. You've felt the burn of impulsive trades. You've sat there staring at your screen, wondering why you keep doing this to yourself, why you keep pressing buttons when everything in your body says stop. You've promised yourself you'll change. But change doesn't happen in a promise. It happens in the moment between the thought and the click. That's where your freedom lives, in that sliver of silence. That moment where you take a breath and don't act on emotion. That's where the cycle starts to break. And yes, it's hard. You will fail. You'll fall back into old habits. You'll catch yourself mid-trade, wondering how the hell you got there again. That's okay. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. Every time you notice the voice, that voice, and choose not to obey it, you're rewiring your brain. You're building a new relationship with yourself. You're teaching your nervous system that safety doesn't come from winning. It comes from trusting yourself not to betray yourself. And when that trust is strong, you become...
Chapter 3. When winning becomes a drug. Let's talk about the win. That high. That rush. That moment when the trade goes your way and you feel like a god. You timed it right, nailed the entry, watched your profit rise with every tick. You didn't just make money, you felt alive. And that feeling, that's the most dangerous drug in trading. Because once you taste it, you'll chase it. Not the money, not the process, not the strategy, the feeling. You crave it like oxygen. And when it's gone, you'll do whatever it takes to get it back. Even if it means breaking your rules, ignoring your system, or risking everything you've built. This is the third emotional trap. The addiction to euphoria. No one talks about this. Everyone warns about fear, about panic, about the danger of losing. But the real trap, it's the other side of the coin. It's what happens when you win, and you can't stop. That euphoric state feels like clarity. It feels like confidence, but it's not. It's impulsive, emotional. It's the brain flooded with dopamine, whispering more. More trades, bigger size. Less caution, less patience. You tell yourself you're in the zone, that you've unlocked something, that this is finally your moment. But the truth? You're high. You're not trading anymore. You're gambling. And it gets worse. Because when the high wears off, and it always wears off. You don't just feel neutral, you feel empty. The same trade that made you feel like a genius now leaves you feeling flat. So, what do? You go looking for the next one. Fast. You don't wait for confirmation. You don't follow your process. You hunt. You chase. You overtrade. Because you're not looking for a setup. You're looking for a hit. And just like that, you've fallen back into the cycle. Here's the brutal truth. Your worst losses usually come after your biggest wins. Not because the market turned, but because you did. Your state changed. Your clarity faded. Your patience vanished. And you didn't even notice. You were too busy riding the high to realize the damage you were setting up.
Because when you win too fast, too easily, or too emotionally, you lose respect for risk. And once that happens, disaster is inevitable. You start telling yourself things like, I'm on a hot streak. I can size up now. I've figured it out. But you haven't. What you figured out is how to feel good, temporarily. That's not mastery, that's dependency. And you cannot build consistency from a place of emotional dependency. You have to let go of the need to feel good. Let go of the chase. Let go of the fantasy that every win will finally make you feel whole, because the real trader, the one who survives, they don't need to feel like a genius, they just need to stay in the game. This is the hardest shift you'll ever make. Trading from neutrality, not excitement, not fear, not the high of the win or the shame of the loss, just stillness. It feels boring at first, dry, emotionless, but that's the point. Because the more neutral you become, the more power you gain. You start seeing the market clearly. You start noticing setups without needing them to work. You become less attached, less reactive. And that emotional distance, that's where your edge lives. So how do you break the cycle of euphoria? Step 1. Awareness. You must start noticing your state before every trade. Ask yourself, am I trading from clarity or from excitement? Am I calm or buzzing? Do I feel grounded or desperate for more? Step 2. Cool-down rituals. After a win, step away. Walk, breathe, journal. Don't jump right back in. Interrupt the loop before it becomes an addiction. Let your nervous system settle. Step 3. Reframe the win. Stop measuring success by how much money you made. Start measuring it by how well you followed your process. Detach your identity from the outcome. Because if every win reinforces your ego, then every loss would destroy it. And that's not sustainable. Listen to me. You are not a better trader because you won today. And you are not a worse trader because you lost yesterday. You are only as strong as your ability to stay present, to stay humble, to stay neutral. You don't need the high. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to show up, clear-headed, one candle at a time. Because that is where consistency is born. Not in the rush, but in the silence between trades. In the stillness of a grounded mind. In the patience to wait for your moment and let it go if it never comes. You've tasted the high. You know how seductive it is. But now you know the truth. It's not your friend. It's not your edge. It's the trap dressed up as triumph. And the moment you stop needing it, you become dangerous. You become steady. You become free. Chapter 4. The Revenge Trade. Spiral. You've been there. You took a loss. A painful one. Maybe it was your fault. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe the setup failed. Maybe you hesitated. Maybe you broke your rules. But it doesn't even matter at that point, does it? Because your body is already reacting. Your chest is tight. Your breathing is shallow. Your heart is pounding in your ears. The chart doesn't even look like a chart anymore. It looks like a battleground. And you're angry. Not just at the market, but at yourself. You feel stupid, ashamed, embarrassed, exposed. You just want to erase the loss. That's when it starts. That first thought. I'll get it back. You enter fast. No setup. No plan. Just emotion. Just that need to undo the damage. And just like that, you've entered the spiral. The revenge trade. Revenge trading is pure survival instinct. It's your brain screaming for resolution, for closure, for balance. Because a loss isn't just money to you. It's wounding. And humans don't respond to wounds with patience. We respond with rage. You want to punish the market. You want to punish yourself. You want to feel in control again. So you press the button. Too early. Too large. Too soon. You're no longer trading a chart. You're chasing redemption. But it never comes. Because the deeper you go into revenge mode, the worse your state becomes. Your judgment erodes. Your focus narrows. Your reasoning vanishes. And what started as a single loss becomes a string of losses. Not because the market is out to get you, but because you refuse to pause. Let me tell you the truth about revenge trading. It's not about money. It's about pain avoidance. It's about trying to undo the emotional damage of being wrong. You don't want the cash back. You want your confidence back. You want your dignity back. You want to feel like you're in control again. Like this trade will cancel the mistake, fix the narrative, rewrite the day. But that's a fantasy. You're not healing. You're just bleeding more quietly. There's a moment, right after a loss, where your entire future hinges on one decision. That moment is small, just a breath, just a flicker. It's the moment when you ask, do I trade again right now? And most of the time, you do. Because you feel like you have to. Because silence is unbearable. Because trading isn't just about entries and exits. It's about self-control. It's about restraint. It's about recognizing when you're trading from a wound and choosing not to. You can stop the spiral. It's not easy, but it's possible. Here's how. 1. Implement a loss cooldown rule. After a losing trade, step away for at least 15 minutes, no matter what. Force a pattern interrupt. Interrupt the loop before it begins. 2. Journal your emotions immediately. Write down exactly how you feel. Not your P&L, not your setup, your state. Capture the anger, the sadness, the embarrassment. Put it on paper so it's no longer controlling you. 3. Set an emergency stop condition. 1 loss is data. 2 losses may be variance. 3, that's emotional territory. Have a hard stop after 3 red trades, not to punish yourself, but to protect yourself, to cut off the spiral before it eats your account. But most importantly, learn to separate your self-worth from your last trade. Because this is what really fuels revenge trading. The idea that you're only as good as your most recent result. That 1 red candle makes you an idiot. That 1 mistake defines your value. It doesn't. You're not your P&L. You're not your win rate. You are the awareness behind the trade. The one who chooses what comes next. And yes, you will slip. You will still take a revenge trade now and then. But the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. It's catching the spiral earlier each time. It's learning to pause one trade sooner. It's replacing self-punishment with self-understanding. That's how you grow. That's how you survive. That's how you finally break the cycle. You don't need to win back your losses today. You just need to win back your clarity, your composure, your sense of self. Because once you reclaim that, you can outlast anything the market throws at you. You can rise from any loss, and you can step back into the arena, clear, calm, unshaken. Chapter 5. The desperation to be right. This one cuts deep. Because this trap isn't about money, it's about ego. It's about your identity as a trader and your desperate need for it to be intact. You've been there. You take a trade. It starts to go against you. You're not stopped out yet, but something in your gut says it's wrong. You could exit. You could cut it early, take the small loss. But you don't. You hold. And not because the setup still makes sense. You know it doesn't. You hold because you need to be right. Because accepting a loss feels like admitting weakness. Because exiting means you were wrong, and that's something your ego just can't accept. This is the trap of righteousness. It's the emotional need to protect your identity at all costs. It says, you can't lose. Not this trade. Not after what happened yesterday. Not after what you told yourself this morning. It's not about logic anymore. It's about defending your worth. It's about proving something to yourself, to your past, to your pain. It's about clinging to a version of yourself that doesn't make mistakes. But you do. You always will. And the moment you start trading to defend your pride, you lose your edge. Here's the brutal irony. The more you try to be right, the more wrong you become. You average down. You widen your stop. You start justifying nonsense. This is just a shakeout. They'll reverse it. It's still above support. You talk yourself into holding, not because it's the smart move, but because you can't stomach the idea of being wrong again. But being wrong isn't the problem. Staying wrong is. You need to understand this. The market does not care who you are. It doesn't care about your analysis. It doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care that you've had 3 red days in a row and you need this one to work. It's not personal. It never was. But you make it personal. And the moment you do, you lose objectivity. You stop trading the chart and you start trading your self-esteem. That's when it all falls apart. So what do you do? How do you let go of the need to be right? How do you cut a losing trade when everything in your body screams to hold? You remembered the truth. Being right is not your job. Your job is to follow your system. Your job is to honor your risk. Your job is to protect your capital so you can trade tomorrow. That's it. That's all. You are not here to win every trade. You are here to stay in the game. And sometimes, most times, that means being wrong and letting go. There's a deep wound underneath all this, a part of you that thinks, if I'm wrong, I'm worthless. It's not about the loss. It's about what it says about you. You've tied your identity to your results, and so every red candle feels like an attack, every stop-out feels like failure, every exit feels like defeat. But it's not. It's actually victory. It's mastery. Because the strongest traders aren't the ones who win all the time. They're the ones who don't fall apart when they're wrong. So what if you stopped fighting the loss? What if you embraced it? What if every time you got stopped out you whispered, "Good. That means I'm doing this right." Because that's the truth. Every loss within your system is a win. Every trade you cut, every rule you honor, every setup you exit with integrity, even when it hurts, that's growth. That's strength. That's real confidence. So let's make this your new rule. You don't have to be right. You just have to be honest. If the trade isn't working, exit. If your bias is broken, reset. If your emotions are flaring, step back. Let go of the fantasy that good traders never lose. The best traders lose all the time. But they don't argue with the market. They don't double down on denial. They don't let their ego run the show. They observe. They adjust. They accept. And then they move on, without judgment, without punishment, without shame. You're allowed to be wrong. You're supposed to be wrong. That's part of the job. And the faster you accept that, the faster you'll grow. Because in trading, truth is more powerful than pride. And peace is more profitable than perfection. So let yourself be wrong. And let yourself be free.
Chapter 6. The Fear of Missing Out. FOMO Trap.
Let's talk about the moment that ruins everything. You're watching the chart. A clean setup is forming, but you missed the entry. You hesitated, you doubted, and then, boom! The move explodes without you. It's flying, it's running. Green candles everywhere. You just stare. Your stomach turns. Your hands get hot. You feel it building inside, the pressure, the panic, the ache. It's not just about missing a trade. It feels like you're missing your chance. You think this was it, this was the one. And suddenly, your mind flips. You're not calm anymore. You're not rational. You're desperate. And desperation breeds disaster. This is the FOMO trap, and it's one of the most emotionally violent states a trader can experience. It doesn't just make you click too fast, it reprograms your brain. You stop seeing risk. You stop thinking in terms of probability. You start thinking in terms of regret. You imagine yourself sitting here, again, watching another move without you. You imagine everyone else catching it. You imagine being the only one left behind. You don't want to miss out, not just on money, but on belonging, on significance, on proof that you're good at this. You're not chasing opportunity, you're trying to escape a feeling, and that feeling is unworthiness. FOMO is never about the candle. It's about what the candle represents. It's about your fear of falling behind, your fear that you'll never make it if you miss one more setup, your fear that you're not enough unless you catch everything. So you jump in, late, sloppy, oversized. You tell yourself it's still early. You squint at the chart, trying to justify it. But deep down, you know. You're not trading a system. You're trading your fear of missing your shot. And the worst part? Even when you catch it, it doesn't feel as good as you thought it would. Because the move is fast. You barely manage to grab a piece. You're in, but you're anxious. You don't trust it. You're scared of the pullback. You exit too early. Now you're mad at yourself for both missing and mismanaging. And if it keeps running after you exit, oh, that's even worse. You feel like a failure all over again. You weren't satisfied with the win. You're still obsessing over what you could have made. That's the sickness of FOMO. It's not a trading mistake, it's a thinking disease. So how do you break it? How do you stop chasing? First, you have to rebuild your relationship with time, because FOMO lives in urgency. It tricks you into believing that this is the last move, the last chance, the last day. But it's a lie. The market isn't going anywhere. There will always be another setup, always another trade. The only thing that won't survive is you, if you keep blowing yourself up chasing shadows. You need a mantra, something to anchor you when the emotion spikes. Here's one. I don't chase, I wait. If I missed it, it wasn't mine. Say it out loud. Write it on your desk. Because every time you honor that truth, you take power back. You teach your nervous system that safety doesn't come from participation. It comes from patience. It comes from trusting your edge. The second step? Celebrate the pass. You think you only deserve praise when you execute a trade. But the real strength? It comes from the trades you don't take. The ones you let go of, even when they're tempting. The ones you skip because the price wasn't right, even though it ran afterward. Those are victories too, because they show discipline. They show growth. They show that you are not a prisoner of the market. You are the one in control. Here's what no one tells you. You're not here to catch every move. You're here to filter, to select, to wait. That's your job. And when you try to catch everything, you catch nothing consistently. You become erratic, exhausted, emotionally drained. Because your account isn't bleeding from missed trades, it's bleeding from chasing them. You don't need more trades. You need more trust. You need to believe that your system will give you another clean setup. You need to believe that sitting out is winning. You need to believe that the right trades don't feel rushed. They feel obvious, clean, peaceful. There's no desperation, no pressure, just flow. So next time you feel FOMO coming on, pause, breathe, step away if you have to. Tell yourself, if I missed it, it wasn't mine. And mean it. Because the more you believe that, the more you'll trade from clarity instead of craving, from strength instead of scarcity. And that is where your real profits begin. Let's be honest. Trading isn't just a skill. It's a mirror. Every time you hit that buy or sell button, it's not just your strategy being tested. It's you. And if you've made it to the end of this video, you already know the truth. The market isn't your biggest enemy. Your emotions are. We talked about how the euphoria of a win can blind you faster than a loss ever could. We broke down the revenge trade spiral, how one bad decision turns into 5, and how that turns into a blown account. We explored the ego trap, the desperate need to be right even when the chart is clearly telling you otherwise. We dove deep into FOMO, the anxiety of missing out and how it convinces you to chase setups that aren't even part of your system. And we touched on the shame cycle, how guilt and self-punishment keep you stuck in emotional loops that sabotage your progress. Now here's the most important takeaway. You don't fix emotions. You fix them by pausing, by observing, by learning to sit with discomfort without acting on it. You fix them by building emotional awareness the same way you built technical knowledge, repetition, reflection, and responsibility. You don't need 20 new strategies. You don't need more indicators. You need to get out of your own way. Because when your emotions run the trade, your system doesn't matter. But when your mind is clear, even the simplest strategy becomes powerful. So let me leave you with this. The goal is not to win every trade. The goal is not to catch every move. The goal is to become the kind of trader who can sit in stillness, who knows when not to trade, and who understands their own mind better than they understand the chart. That's the edge. That's how you break the cycle. That's how you stop being a victim of your own psychology and start becoming a professional in full control of your craft. If this resonated with you, don't just close the video and go back to the same patterns. Pause, reflect, rewatch, journal. And if you found value in this, drop a comment below and share which emotional trap hits you hardest. Your story might help another trader realize they're not alone. Hit the like button if this gave you clarity. Subscribe if you want more deep, honest trading psychology content like this. Because this isn't just a channel about charts. It's a space for growth. Mental, emotional, and financial. Thank you for watching. Now go back to the market. Not with fear, not with ego, but with awareness. Because this time, you see the trap coming. And you know how to break it.